Srimad Bhagavatam reading. Today we are continuing Kunti Devi's conversation with Krishna as Krishna is leaving. Om Namo
Srimad
Bhagavate
Bhagavatam reading.
Vasudevaya.
Today we
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If anybody likes to read, you can just raise your hand and then I'll call on you. Kunti again shook her head, as the senses have no power when the soul leaves the body. Similarly, neither my sons nor the Yadus have any power when you're not with us. She clutched Krishna's hands in her own and pleaded, "My Lord, please do not go, only because your footprints mark this land does it appear beautiful. When you leave, it will no longer be so. This thriving earth filled with herbs, fruit-laden trees, forests, mountains, and rivers only prosper because of your glance." Kunti's mind drifted to thoughts of her brother Vasudeva and his wife Devaki. Surely they must be suffering in Krishna's absence. Maybe he should go to them. But if Krishna left, what would happen to her sons? Oh, Krishna, because of my dual attachment to both the Pandavas and the Yadavas, I'm feeling torn. Please sever my material affections. O Lord of the Madhu dynasty, just as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, please let my attraction be constantly drawn to you alone. Kunti sank to her knees with her hands clasped. O Krishna, friend of Arjuna, best of the Yadavas, destroyer of the vicious kings, Lord of undiminished strength, protector of the cows, Brahmins and the devotees, master of yogic powers, guru of all, O Almighty God, I offer you my humble obeisances. Krishna bent over and gently helped his aunt rise. Wiping away her tears, he assured her that her desire would be fulfilled and her attraction would never waver from him. Then he returned to address Yudhishthira. O king, before I leave, I must bid farewell to the other ladies in the palace. Draupadi and Subhadra had gone to the palace to tend to Uttara, who was still weak from her ordeal. Krishna, Yudhishthira, Kunti, Satyaki, and Uddhava walked back to the palace, followed by the other Pandavas. The Lord entered the women's quarters to inquire after Uttara and found her in bed surrounded by anxious female relatives and friends. The Lord said to them, "Do not fear for Uttara or her child. They will both be fine. Indeed, Uttara will give birth to a son who will grow up to be a great monarch." After exchanging affectionate words with Uttara, Draupadi, and Subhadra, he tenderly bid them farewell. He then left, followed by the Pandavas, Satyaki, and Uddhava. Turning to Yudhishthira and said, "O king, my relatives in Dwarka want me to return. Please allow me to depart." Yudhishthira's face contorted into a mask of pain. Placing a hand on Krishna's arm, he said, "Surely you will return to Dwarka if it is your will, but how will I survive without your guidance?" In doleful tones, Yudhishthira confided his fears. Ashwatthama's recent attack had highlighted the extent of enmity the war had created. There would be much work to do to strengthen alliances and to ensure the millions of widows and orphans were all protected. The road ahead seemed overwhelming. Krishna encouraged him. "My dear Yudhishthira, the time has come. You must now accept the throne." Overcome by emotion, Yudhishthira shook his head. "Surely I am unfit to rule the world. How can I lead anyone? I'm the most sinful man. Just see my heart, so full of ignorance. Just to further the interests of my own body, which is fit to be eaten by jackals, I've killed legions of family and friends. For my sake, boys, Brahmins, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers have perished. I shall have to suffer in hell for millions of years for my sins. Yudhishthir turned to Bhima and said, Brother, take the throne. I shall go to the forest to perform penance. Bhima looked shocked. My lord, this can never be. How can I rule in your place? Do not censure yourself so. You're a great warrior and leader. You have done your duty. Now accept the throne and rule over this wide earth. Yudhishthira said nothing. Arjuna came up to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. How have you spoken such words, dear brother? After conquering your enemies, you are now the world's rightful ruler. As a Kshatriya, it is your duty to protect the people. It is not time for you to renounce. Kings like you must perform sacrifice and then distribute wealth to those in need. In this way, pious monarchs increase their virtue and fame. The world stands in need of a leader. Following in the footsteps of great kings in our line, you should become emperor of the earth. How could you accept any other path? Yudhishthira sighed. There is no sin for a king who kills enemies, who attack his people. Duryodhana, however, posed no threat to the citizens. I have killed him and his supporters only out of greed for a kingdom. Nakula said, My lord, by performing your kingly duties, you can absolve yourself of any sin you may have incurred. Yudhishthira lowered his head. No amount of material welfare work can counteract the suffering I've caused by this war. Sahadeva also tried to convince the king. Of performing house sacrifices, as Krishna suggested, you can purify yourself, my lord. Yudhishthira looked around at his brothers, who were all gazing anxiously at him. He spoke in a low, anguished voice. Just as one cannot purify muddy water by straining it through mud, nor a wine-stained pot by washing it with wine, similarly, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals. Krishna said, Yudhishthira, your brothers have sacrificed so much to win your kingdom back. You cannot desert them now. They and the people need you. Do not shy away from your duty. Yudhishthira turned his tearful eyes toward Krishna. Seeing the Lord's beautiful features and hearing his instructions calmed his mind. He spoke pleadingly. Oh Krishna, please delay your return to Dwarka for a little longer. My heart is burning. I cannot see my way forward. Krishna embraced Yudhishthira. Obliged by your love for me, I shall stay a few more days. Okay, anybody likes to take over from here?
Okay, I'll read. When Sutta stopped speaking, no sound could be heard, along with the sages. It seemed as if even the birds, fire, and air were listening silently. After a few moments, Shaunaka broke the silence. What an enthralling account! I noted that Queen Kunti shed light on our third question regarding why Krishna appears. He mainly comes to perform his wonderful pastime, so conditioned souls can take delight in hearing about and discussing him. Suta's eyes lit up. Yes, I was also stressing this earlier. Such discussions awaken our attraction for Krishna, thereby destroying our illusion. What happened to the child in Uttara's womb? He was born in good health and later became the great emperor Parikshit. When the incident with Ashwatthama occurred, the embryonic child saw Lord Krishna club in hand, encircling and protecting him from the moment he was devoted to Krishna. And although his life, he would scan each face he saw, searching for the person he had seen in the womb. For this reason, he was called Parikshit, the seeker. The sages expressed wonderment, wonderment that Krishna had appeared to the unborn child in his mother's womb and protected him from harm. Sutta laughed. O Brahmins, do not think this to be especially wonderful for Krishna. Merely by his will he creates, maintains, and annihilates the universe. Shaunaka wondered how a sober monarch like Yudhishthira could become so affected by material grief that he would consider abandoning his duty. Revealing his doubt to Sutta, he added, only an ignorant person thinks of violence and non-violence in terms of the body. How was the emperor so bewildered? Sutta replied, Yudhishthira is a self-realized soul. Krishna directly induced his confusion. Shaunaka frowned. How can that be? Krishna himself tried without success to dissipate his grief and bewilderment. The Lord did this to glorify Him, explained Sutta. He confounded Yudhishthira's mind, making the king incapable of understanding even his instructions, because the Lord wanted to give Bhishma the credit of enlightening Yudhishthira. Krishna also wanted to please Bhishma by visiting him along with the Pandavas. Please tell us what happened when they saw Bhishma. Listen, said Sutta. Bhishma departs. At Krishna's behest, King Yudhishthira receives instructions from the mighty warrior Bhishma, who then leaves this world in Krishna's presence. Resplendent like Kuber, the heavenly treasurer, Yudhishthira rode on a great golden chariot, yoked to 16 white horses. His brothers rode behind him on equally magnificent conveyances. Krishna accompanied Arjuna on his chariot. Great sages and Brahmins, including Vyasadeva and Dhaumya, walked alongside them as they steadily made their way to where grandfather Bhishma lay on his bed of arrows. Bhishma was attended by many elite sages including Parshuram, Vashishth, Gautam, and Sukadev, who were reciting the Lord's glories. Nearby also sat his old friend Kripacharya. Hearing the thunderous sounds of their approaching chariots, the sages rose and made way for the Pandavas and Krishna to approach Bhishma. On seeing the Lord, Bhishma was overwhelmed with gratitude. Turning to Kripacharya, he said, just see the wonderful, causeless mercy of Lord Krishna. I am most unfortunate. I have no qualification. I opposed Krishna's most intimate friend Arjuna. I even tried to kill him. Still, the Lord, who is worshipped by all sages, great sages, is so kind and merciful that he has come to see an abominable person like me at the last point of my life. Yudhishthira was grief-stricken to see his beloved grandfather in such a pained condition. Blaming himself, he offered his respects and sat meekly to one side along with his brothers. Seeing Bhishma's pitiable condition, Krishna forgot himself in his compassion. Tears flowed from his eyes as he gently greeted the fallen hero. With great difficulty he placed his two arms together and joyfully said, O Krishna, my Lord, Lord of the universe, I offer you my worship. By virtue of Krishna's presence, the pain left Bhishma's body and his mind became calm. Krishna affectionately told Bhishma that his grandsons had come to see him. Yudhishthira feels too ashamed to present himself to you. He blames himself for this war. Bhishma turned his head slowly and saw the Pandavas sitting with bowed heads. In a voice choked with affection, Bhishma called out, Come, come, my beloved grandsons, let me congratulate you on your glorious victory. The brothers knelt on either side of their grandfather. They each tearfully begged for his forgiveness. "There is nothing to forgive," said Bhishma. "Since your childhood, you good souls have continuously suffered terrible injustices. The war was not your fault. It was the only way to re-establish justice. Your behavior has been above reproach. Indeed, it is because of your pity that your brothers have always been protected by the Brahmins, God and religion itself." Bhishma closed his eyes, remembering the day the orphaned Pandavas which reached Hastinapur with their young widowed mother Kunti. After Pandava's death, the sages.
Thank you. Is somebody else like to volunteer for reading?
Is it too noisy here?
No, it's fine.
With bowed heads, in a voice choked with affection, Bhishma called out, "Come, come, my beloved grandson. Let me congratulate you on your glorious victory." The brothers knelt on either side of their grandfather. They each tearfully begged for his forgiveness. "There is nothing to forgive," said Bhishma. "Since your childhood, you good souls have continuously suffered terrible injustices. The war was not your fault. It was the only way to re-establish justice. Your behavior has been above reproach. Indeed, it is because of your piety that you brothers have always been protected by the Brahmins, God, and religion itself." Bhishma closed his eyes, remembering the day the orphan Pandavas first reached Hastinapura with their young widowed mother, Kunti. After Pandu's death, the sages escorted them to their ancestral home. Tears ran from the corners of his eyes as he recalled the hardships Kunti had undergone due to the malicious intrigues of Dhritarashtra's eldest son Duryodhana and his maternal uncle Shakuni. The Pandavas also Duryodhana had not even been pacified when his father gave him half the kingdom. Burning with envy, he stripped them of their half and went on to humiliate them by dishonoring their wife. Poor Kunti, Bhishma said. "I saw how much she suffered because of the gambling match." Yudhishthira hung his head in shame, remembering how he had staked first his brothers, then himself, and finally the chaste and sinless Draupadi. His chest heaved with emotion, and his face flushed as he castigated himself. "What a wretched person I am! How many sins I must have performed in my previous lives." Bhishma reassured him. "Do not blame yourself, Yudhishthira. You are not at all fault for what has happened. Indeed, you are the emblem of piety. Everything was arranged by inexorable time, under whose control everyone is carried, just as the wind carries clouds. Otherwise, how could you have suffered so much, even though you are the son of the god of religion, protected by the mighty Bhima and the powerful Arjuna and above all Lord Krishna? Yudhishthira, know that know that time is identical with the Lord, and all this has happened by his desire." Yudhishthira turned his tear-stained face towards Bhishma. "O grandfather, if everything happened by the Lord's will, then what is his intent?" Bhishma's chuckle turned into a painful cough, and he spat out blood. With difficulty, he replied, "O king, no one can ascertain the Lord's plan, not even the great gods, Shiva and Brahma. Even the sages' exhaustive philosophical inquiries cannot divine the Lord's purposes. There is no point in asking such a question. Better to just abide by his orders without argument." Yudhishthira's brow furrowed. "What does the Lord want me to do? Should I go to the forest and perform penance, or stay in Hastinapura and rule the kingdom? Why are you confused, Yudhishthira? His order is clear. You must unhesitatingly accept the responsibility of ruling and protecting your citizens. How can I be sure that this is his desire? Bhishma's eyes turned toward Krishna, who was next to Yudhishthira. Because, because the Supreme Lord sits beside you even as we speak, and he has repeatedly instructed you to assume the throne. Yudhishthira turned his head toward Krishna, sitting next to him. His cousin Krishna was the Supreme Lord. He turned back to Bhishma with a look of bafflement. Do not be so surprised, Yudhishthira. Bhishma smiled. Krishna mystifies everyone. Those who want to enjoy separately from him are deluded by his external energy to forget his supreme position. His devotees who love him, on the other hand, are bewildered by his internal potency and thus forget his supreme position. The sun's rays shone directly on Krishna's serene face, enhancing his beauty as he looked lovingly at his many devotees. The sages present sang mantras of glorification. The five brothers, however, looked again and again at Krishna and then at Bhishma. They knew Krishna was wonderful, but how could he be the Supreme Lord? He was their dearmost friend, their cousin and confidante. Bhishma fixed his tear-filled eyes on Krishna's face. This Krishna is none other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead. Thank you. He is the first Narayana, the supreme enjoyer. Yet he moves amongst the Vrishni family as if he were a mere mortal like us. He thus baffles us all. Yudhishthira gazed at Krishna. It must be as grandfather Bhishma says. He is renowned for his learning, virtue, and spiritual wisdom. Why then would Krishna have put them into so much difficulty? He turned back to Bhishma with a quizzical expression. Your confusion does not surprise me, said Bhishma. Krishna reveals his will only to great spiritual authorities such as Shiva, Narada, and his own incarnation, Sage Kapila. My dear son, Yudhishthira, you must understand that Krishna puts his beloved devotees like you into difficulty only to deepen your loving exchanges with him. Do you remember how you turned to him repeatedly when calamities came? Thinking he was your maternal cousin, you sought his friendship and counsel. You asked him to become your messenger and ally. He always reciprocated with you because of your great love for him. Bhishma looked toward Krishna. You show your kindness to everyone if they have full faith in your protection. Because I am such an unflinching devotee, you have come here at the last moment of my life to give me your guidance. Grandfather, said Yudhishthira, please tell me the means by which one can become the Lord's pure devotee and thereby enjoy his shelter. Bhishma replied, at the time of death, Krishna will appear in the minds of those who always chant his holy names with fixed attention. Thus, the karmic reactions that kept them bound in material existence will be destroyed. Bhishma turned to Krishna. My lord, please appear before me as the four-handed Narayana. I wish to see this glorious form as I leave my body. Krishna placed his hand over Bhishma's. Then he turned to Yudhishthira and nodded, indicating Yudhishthira should continue asking his grandfather his other questions. Yudhishthira began by asking about the essential principles of statecraft. Bhishma then explained the moral duties of society in two divisions, One was for those desiring material enjoyment, and the other for those more inclined to renunciation. He said that everyone should be trained to be charitable. He also described the specific duties of the king, of women, of devotees, and of each of the different occupations, supporting his explanations with scriptural evidence. Over the course of the many days that over the course of the many days that Bhishma instructed Yudhishthira, the sun gradually moved to the northern hemisphere. Noting this, Bhishma was able to die at a time of his own choosing, told Yudhishthira, "My dear king, the auspicious time for my departure has..."
I think we can pause there. We can read again from here tomorrow. Over the course of many days, that Bhishma instructed Yudhishthira. Okay. One thing I observed was something that really struck me. Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead, right? Like, I mean, imagine us, we know everything about a particular subject or something. We would not tell, if we were in the place of Krishna, we would not tell Yudhishthira to go and bother a dying man in bed about whatever management, not even bed of arrows. And Krishna was yet, no, like not that insecure or, know it all category at all. He actually encouraged Yudhishthira to go and approach Bhishma. I find that to be so sweet and so like, in one sense, so godly. Any human would feel like, I know everything. You don't need Bhishma to tell you, I know everything. And it's not even like Bhishma is like, or was even on the enemy's side. And then, I mean, look at all the irony of the situation. Pandava has brought Bhishma to that condition of physical helplessness. And yet all this is happening. So that shows how transcendental it is when we connect to Krishna and when we allow Krishna to take charge of us. No matter the trauma, no matter the dilemma, no matter the enmity, no matter all the anarthas, Krishna is like, that father who can protect us and give us shelter in spite of our mistakes, in spite of our imperfections. It's very interesting. I found this very... Any other questions or comments?
I like the part where Bhishma says, when Yudhishthira was surprised that he was representative guarded and he treated him like cousin, and then Bhishma says, and then he questions Bhishma that why he had put them in so much difficulty. Then Bhishma says, only to deepen loving exchanges with his devotees. He puts his beloved devotees only to deepen his loving exchanges with the devotees. Only to that affected me, because we miss the point when we are suffering, because Bhishma also explains that there are two kinds, one who want to enjoy and one who want to renounce people. So because of our enjoying thing, we miss the point of suffering in this world. It is only to deepen our relationship with Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Beautiful points. Okay. Now we can meditate on some of these important principles as we set our affirmation and as we set our mind at the lotus feet of Krishna, requesting Krishna to help us to direct our thoughts so that it flows always towards him, no matter the circumstances of our life. And to see difficulties as a way that the Lord is giving us an opportunity to come closer to him, to think of him, and to become more firm in our faith towards him. Remembering the great personalities and the great devotees, such as Bhishma Dev, who was completely surrendered to Krishna, and he laid in the battlefield on a bed of arrows, blood oozing out from his body. He recited Krishna's holy names. He recited 1,000 names of Krishna, glorifying different activities of the Lord. May our determination be like Bhishma. May we rededicate every breath. May our actions be pleasing to the Lord. May we become willing to let the Lord take control of our life. And as Bhishma Dev told Yudhishthir Maharaj, nobody can know exactly what is Krishna's plan, not even the great sages, not even Shiva or Brahma. Sometimes we are trying to figure out our life lessons, what Krishna wants for us. We can just hand it over, just surrender. In that state of powerlessness, may we find faith that can empower us to be an instrument in the Lord's hands. Seeking the blessings and benedictions of Pandavas, let us affirm for our devotion and service to progress. We can all take turns to spell out our affirmation. What kind of a prayer do we want to place at the lotus feet of the Lord today? I can start. My affirmation for today is, may I let go of my false ego and my self-will, thinking of how things should be, how relationships should be. May I forgive myself for all the mistakes and all the flaws of mine. And for today, just for today, I hand over completely every single emotion, every single action in the care of the Lord, the Supreme Father, whose arms are always open. I want to take shelter in Him. My eternal relationship is with Him. Every other relationship is meant to enhance my affection for the Lord. And may my situations increase my affection for Krishna. Thank you.
I want to affirm that my suffering in this world is not meant to cause me pain, but it is meant to free me from this pain by connecting to Krishna, by depending on Him. Hare Krishna.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, I decide to plant nourishing and uplifting thoughts in the garden of my mind and let go of thoughts I do not want, and having complete faith in Krishna. Thank you.
Jai,
Jai.
jai, jai, jai. May Krishna give you the strength to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deepti, Kalpana, would you like to go? Can also put it
Hare
in the
Krishna.
chat.
Hare Krishna. I would like to thank Krishna for giving me the opportunity for this association with all the devotees and hearing the Bhagavatam class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Deepti. Yes, Kalpana, go ahead.
Today I will be grateful for everything what I have received, and may my every action will be for pleasing God only, and Krishna's will, not mine, be done.
Jai.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Kalpana. Thank you for reminding us that may Krishna's will and not ours be done. Deepti, thank you for joining us today. And yeah, have a wonderful day and good night. Take care and see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.